frame up the why, the how, and the what in a repeated, clear, and obvious way.
How can we band together our financial resources to get a better deal?
The mission is the North Star. That's where it all starts. Marketing's downstream of that.
There's no position at the credit union that doesn't require member contact.
The repetition is the hardest part.
Communication must be redundant. When you start to get sick of it is when others start to stick with it.
Have that friction and then come out of it on the other end saying, wow, we're better together now.
You're listening to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, a podcast that delivers value and offers up insight that'll help your credit union grow. ServiceStar has been consulting with credit unions for over 20 years, growing them in the areas of cultural development, leadership development, and management training. To learn more about what ServiceStar can do for you or your credit union, check them out at servicestarconsulting.com.
Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. It's Scott and
Scott Albrecht.
And guys, today we are going to be focusing on rebrand to mission. Rebrand to mission. Talking to a lot of credit unions lately that are focusing on rebranding, staying current with their visuals and how they communicate. Yet most rebrands fail because all they do is change the visuals and they skip the why. Today, we're talking to the CEO of Rekindle about how he flipped the script, focusing on the why and how that why fuels him on the stuff that we get giddy about, which is the visuals and all the details and how that best points to the why. So listeners, today, what are you going to get out of this? You're going to hear how you anchor to culture, and it's going to make decision-making easier, and it's going to help focus on member impact and a mission-centered rebrand. What does that look like? What are some practical steps? And man, he gives us some real practical tools. So yes, if you're in marketing, this is some great stuff. Also, if you're thinking about leading and becoming a branch manager, there's some practical stuff that Nate gives us. So before we play the episode, Albrecht, why did you decide to reach out to Nate now about getting him on as a podcast guest?
$5 words. I mean, this guy's got maybe 3 or 4 $5 words. So let's see if you can find him in the podcast, but also a good friend of mine. We met, it was called RK Go Big about 5 years ago when they partnered with ServiceStar to do some training on sales, service, and coaching for performance. Fell in love with their credit unions, fell in love with Nate, and just so happy to have him on the podcast today.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's go ahead and look at this leading a bold identity with rethinking of identity, mission, and member experience. Ryan, go ahead and play that tape.
Welcome to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, where we get to rebrand your mission with Rekindle's CEO, Nate Anderson. Scott Anderley, I'm super excited about our guests. We got the Anderley and the Anderson. What are we going to talk about? Rebranding, man. This is great.
Yeah, Anderley, Anderson, and Albrecht. So yeah,
I'm sad I'm not a Scott. That's the place. If only.
But if
Scott times 3.
If you need some energy, this is the AAA battery coming right out to you.
Well, before we get into the energy, actually, Nate, I don't know much about Rekindle. Albrecht, I know you know a lot about Rekindle. So actually, I'm kind of thinking, Nate, could you give us the why Rekindle exists? What do you do?
Yeah.
And then I want to hear from Albrecht. How did you meet Nate? But Nate, let's start with you.
So right now, the why of Rekindle is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward, and I think it's something that a lot of CUSOs are. But it's really and truly, we're here to help credit unions thrive. That's it. It's very simple. How we do that and what we do to accomplish that, I think that's where we differentiate ourselves. But the why of the moment is that, and if we're not doing that, we're not doing our jobs correctly.
Yeah. So then that naturally goes to the next thing is, how are you helping credit unions thrive? Is it something that is what Rekindle's doing? Is it something that's common? Are there a lot of organizations doing this? What is it?
Yeah, so I hesitate to say it's common, right? That's a bad thing for a CEO to say. Oh, yeah, no, we do what everyone else does. But look, we are not some sort of fancy new startup. We are doing shared services. We're doing shared contracting. We're doing shared knowledge. We're combining all those things. I'd like to think that the sauce here is in the deep collaboration of the small group. We were founded back in 2014 by 6 credit unions, and those credit unions, they got to know each other real well, and that is a thing I think that is still potentially lacking in the universe of credit unions. There's plenty of groups that get together, but that kind of collaborative knit, the fabric there, I think, is where we're where we're really leaning into and attempting to create some different vibes with those things. So
Yeah, you guys are supporting the cornerstone of the credit union philosophy, people helping people. How does this mission clarity kind of help you governor some of the day-to-day decisions you have to make as a CEO on the
yeah.
direction of the company?
Mm.
Well, there's two pieces of that. There's inward and outward, and when I took over last April, the stuff was largely there. Everyone kind of got it. But
Yeah.
if you asked an MSR at one of our credit unions, hey, what does Rekindle do? First of all, they'd be like, I'm not sure who that is. And then they would say, I don't know. I think they help us with stuff, maybe. So we took it. What I was really interested in doing was getting to the point where any MSR could say, well, they're here to help us, and they centralize our stuff for us, whether it's groups, contracts, or some of our back office stuff. We wanted to turn that into a 2 sentence thing, maybe a 30-second, elevator
Yeah.
experience for them. So, outward, that was one phase. And the other one's internal, right? So whenever you take over as a leader, sometimes this isn't like a pro sports team, right? Where a new coach comes in, new GM comes in, and they just wipe the slate.
Yeah.
That's it. We wipe the slate clean. Now we get to mold everything into our vision. When you think about it, like it's very unkind. That is not
Yeah.
that is not what we do in business, generally speaking, for good reason. The people here know what they're doing. There's a lot of knowledge, but there's a cost to that. And the cost is you kind of have to be able to articulate the change and articulate the things you want to think about as a leader and the strategic path that you're on to the internals so that it actually happens. So internally, we wanted to frame up the why, the how, and the what in a repeated, clear, and obvious way. And so we're still working hard on that. Repetition is tough. People get tired of your voice. They get tired, but that's the internal and external. Hopefully that explains, your question or answers your question there.
Yeah, well, when I met you, you were over strategy, and I think it was
Yeah,
last year at this time you sent me a note saying I'm gonna be the head cheese next year, and so
that's
uh,
what I said. Exactly that. Yeah.
exactly that verbatim. How has that transition gone? A year, kind of
Yeah.
looking back at reflectively, and
Yeah.
what's next for you as the head of
Yeah.
Rekindle?
The change has been awesome. It has been great. I've felt very supported, certainly by our board, by the team here, and by the network. Everyone's been super helpful. We haven't done anything outward yet, and that is very much intentional. We are foundationally thinking about things, some boring things like financials and accounting and that kind of stuff, but then some not boring things like this stuff, like the why, the how, the what, and then some of the fresh coats of paint we're going to put on things like the website and the logo and all those things. So those things are all happening, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, and then this year we're really going to take this out for the first time. And I can confidently say this, we are interested in being an outward facing experience. We've largely kept Rekindle in the shadows. The website had been intentionally obtuse and relatively vague. And look, there's an upside and a downside to having a close-knit group community, but
Yeah.
now it's time to share it. And I think that's the change in 2026.
So what I'm hearing you say with Rekindle, it was started by 6 credit unions, really living out our value of camaraderie because they're willing to say, hey, we're struggling with this, or hey, we want to get a cheaper service here, or hey, we need to develop leaders here. You got to get vulnerable with your other
Yeah,
credit unions.
absolutely.
And what Rekindle does is not just share your weaknesses, but saying, hey, if I'm hearing you right, it's working with smaller credit unions saying,
Yes.
how can we band together our financial resources to get a better deal, maybe on Salesforce, or a better deal on maybe Zoom Enterprise,
Yeah.
or a better deal on Service Star Consulting? Am I hearing you right?
Yes. And in fact, Service Star Consulting was the first project I personally worked on to that end, right?
Oh, the first?
I believe so, because I had that experience was really close to when I was hired.
Wow.
And I got thrown into it right away, and it's like, hey man, you're gonna lead this project. And the power of the network was very clear to me immediately because of that. So yes, Scott, I can't even say Scott A, Scott Anderley.
Yeah.
That is correct.
We'll both just go, yeah.
That is correct. That is correct. But
Wow.
it's the value, those conversations, you're trying to suss out the opportunities, you're trying to suss out the problems and sort of come together on value. That's really the equation there.
Yeah. It makes me think of something my wife and I used was for a while was Christian Healthcare Ministries, where it was all these people putting their resources together to get cheaper deals or better things on healthcare products. And it
Yeah.
sounds like it's this idea of, hey, we're banding together so we can make each other stronger. And instead of this fear of competition, it's this growth mindset of, hey, how about we help the credit union movement grow, but stay focused on being a local credit union, helping
Yeah.
our communities instead of getting bigger and bigger. Well,
That
I guess we have to define what bigger and bigger means, but I mean less
Sure. That might be a
bank-like.
different podcast, but
Yeah.
yes, that's a good question and a good point. The way that I've been taught to think about it, and I still think about it, is look, there are giant credit unions out there. And if you did the math, just pulled the reports, all of our credit unions combined, basically one giant credit union. And that's how I think of it. It really is. And I have the privilege of being an agent in that experience. So we at Rekindle get to be shepherding that message to anyone that wants to talk to us about anything. So that tends to be the path we take when we have those conversations.
It's pretty innovative for, a lot of other areas to kind of consider. And where I've seen this work well was in healthcare, where you could have CVS, you could have Walgreens, but there's still independently owned pharmacies that kind of have pooled their resources together through entities to be able to still have the competitive prices, to still be relevant to those small communities where Walgreens, CVS might pass that community up. And so that credit union exposure in Pennsylvania, which is, you got some really remote kind of areas where these credit unions, that's the only thing. And without these credit unions, it could be one of those underbanked areas if there were a merger. And so not to say that Rekindle is to prevent mergers, but it is to say that you are leading with that local trusted institution and protecting that and preserving that. I think that's a great innovation that you all came up with.
It's cool because right now I find myself talking to a lot of smaller credit unions that say we want to use you, and they're facing two problems. One problem is our staff is so small we can't sacrifice having most of our team go out to a training. The second one is just the budget, and it sounds like you may be able to help out with both of those. Definitely the budget by pulling resources, and the second is if you pooled 6 credit unions together, maybe they're seeing a community, whether it's not their own credit union, but maybe some others, to help as they're learning this stuff. I do want to transition real quick, Scott and Nate. So I think I have a good understanding of Rekindle. I want to transition now to, all right, so Nate, you said April you became the CEO, and one of the big things you told us that you're working on is this rebrand.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask if you think of it as a scale, a spectrum of rebrand. A lot of people think rebrand, and you had talked about a bit, is the changing the paint. It's the website, it's the logo, it's the new commercials, the slogan. But then also something you had mentioned to us before this was this idea of rebranding being, well, you said it, is articulating change, keeping it on the mission. When it comes to this, where are you anchored? Are you anchored more towards mission or marketing?
Oh, yes, and I mean the mission is the North Star. That's where it all starts. Truly, I'm a bit of a Simon Sinek disciple, so I am absolutely obsessed with this notion that without that North Star, you truly have absolutely no business doing what you're doing. It is not going to work. It just won't work. You can try, and you might get to C plus. You might hang out there, but unless everyone's looking at that mission and you answer questions with, will that serve the mission? Then I don't know how else to think about it these days. That's where I'm wired. So that's the North Star. The marketing is a downstream element to the mission. Again, it's all pointing up there. The rebrand, you didn't ask this, I'll answer it quickly, but why are we rebranding? It's because of this thing I mentioned earlier. The value of Rekindle Go Big, which is what we used to be called, had a ton of that whenever it was this small little group thinking about, bursting into this bigger thing.
Yeah.
It has, the value proposition of that name it's frankly too confusing for a new person to generally, well, I don't understand. Hey, that's a neat conversation topic, but it's not great for whenever you want to talk about blowing things up a little bit. So,
Yeah.
so it's more mission, marketing's downstream of that.
Yeah. Man, I liked just that marketing is downstream, where sometimes some of us may geek out more on the operations. Hey, marketing, how's this email going to look? Hey, what's the color? What's the brand?
Don't get me
How's the
wrong.
video?
I'm an absolute,
We geek out about it.
lunatic about that stuff. I love it, but it's got to be pointing. Yeah.
Man, really, really good stuff. I want to come back to this, but we're going to take a quick break.
An investment in leadership is one that pays dividends in your others. I'm Scott Albrecht, guest on the Credit Union Leadership Podcast and Vice President of Learning and Development. And man, oh man, our upcoming Emerging Leaders course is something that I didn't get as a department manager over several departments in the credit union movement. And the average manager in America doesn't go to manager training until they've been a manager for 10 years on average. We send the average teller to 2 to 3 weeks of teller training. And yet, as a manager, we just give them the keys to the Jeep and we tell them not to break it. Drive it like you stole it. Maybe even prayers and our best thoughts are with you, but no management training. And so Service Star Consulting is here to fill that void with our Emerging Leaders class, where your talent will get topics like effective mentorship, building trust, coaching for performance, leadership hacks, and many more. Join us at our next upcoming cohort. We've got 2 that launch every year. We're so excited about having your talent at the next Emerging Leaders cohort.
All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah. We're going to have new key colors. We're going to have some Rekindle color palette changes coming up here.
Yes, okay. The palette changes are coming. Yes, in fact, I believe they're here now. So yes, it's all going to be a fresh. It will be a fresh coat. But again, that's just stuff that's look. Part of it's just, I don't know. You guys probably do a lot of PowerPoints, right?
Yeah.
I learned this a while ago, and I've stuck with it. You can get really into making a PowerPoint and using that PowerPoint for all of your meetings. Do you know what happens when you just change the font and the colors of a PowerPoint, something that you've been changing, that you've been using all the time? The second you do that to that group of people, board, teaching experience, whatever, they just refocus. They just re-hone in just because you changed the energy of the vibe of the deck. Same words, just changed the way it looked and the way it felt. That's part of a rebrand too. Like you know, you gotta account for snapping focus and snapping attention just because it's new. So look, I'm not gonna lie, that's part of it.
Snapping focus. I love this mindset of this. And with that, the question that comes next is, I was gonna ask this idea. I was thinking rebrand. How much of it is culture change, what Service Star helps a lot with when it comes to leadership behaviors, and how much of it is cosmetics? But you just gave a great example of how cosmetics can help with culture change by getting people engaged in a meeting that they might tune out because they believe they heard it a lot. And actually, Albrecht, you were just telling me about a book you were reading, Power of Habit, or no, Atomic Habits, right? Yep. And what he's talking about reminds me of something you just shared with me about, like, different spaces gets your brain wired. Could you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm playing the guitar. I'm a guitar player now, and they say it's beneficial to learn playing the guitar in a dedicated space. It helps you kind of remember what you learned. And then I'm also I'm a Hebrew studier, and so I'm learning Hebrew, and so I've got a different space in my office for that. And so the book is kind of informing me that the brain works in specific ways, and so the more I can create in different spaces, the more I can open up my brain to new opportunities. And so it's one big brain experiment, and I'm all in. I'm super excited about it. So Atomic Habits, James Clear, Columbus, Ohio native. So my guy.
And Nate, what I'm hearing is with PowerPoint is like people, I could be guilty of this, are using the same PowerPoint, whether they're meeting with clients, whether they're meeting with the whole team, whether they're meeting with one person. And eventually that becomes stagnant. We've seen it a lot, right? So tell me a little more. All right. So PowerPoint's one. Are there other cosmetics that you're doing to do this snapping focus?
Yeah. It's also the people who do things at these places, right? So I'll just give you a simple example. So we have all hands meetings. I'm sure you have them as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I
How
host,
big is your team real quick?
it's we're 15 strong,
I'm 15.
feeling
All right,
good,
cool.
feeling good. But if I hosted every single all hands meeting and I structured it the same way each time, there's an upside to that. People like pattern, people like feeling it, but there's in my opinion, a bigger downside, which is people don't pay attention, people don't participate, people don't engage. So at RK Go Big, formerly RK Go Big, at Rekindle, my gosh,
Yeah.
see, it's been here for
You're
so
leading the
long.
change
It's been here
yourself.
for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
At Rekindle, we swap it. We have different people host the all hands meeting. And it's a really simple, silly little change that snaps. It gets people to think about things in just a slightly different way. Lots of examples of that.
Well,
Love to
pausing
change
right
those things
there,
up. Yeah.
what I love about that too is also it's not just a cosmetic change of
No.
the PowerPoint. It's a leadership change, and you're getting people engaged and on board and invested in this, where it's not just you talking about here's the focus of the week or asking the question, how does this reflect our mission? You're encouraging other people to think like that, which is a way of culture change, balance of culture change in cosmetics when it comes to leading rebrands.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. The repetition is the hardest part. It's in some ways, oh, I can repeat the same thing, but then the accountability on the repetition, man, that's it. If you get that right, I think that's it. That's what you want.
You can start a diet for a day, but if you make it a lifestyle, then
Yeah.
all the fat goes away. And so
Yeah.
the credit union fat is disengaged internal employees, right? Actually, when I got to meet your credit unions, I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
We taught them that there's no position at the credit union that doesn't require member contact. Every job aspect has some kind of external member contact. And for your Rekindle, the same is true, right? So just because I'm a Rekindle employee doesn't mean I don't impact the members of these credit unions in some way, shape, and form. And so I think the mission, the snap, if you will, having people run the meeting. This is kind of how you're bringing employees along for this journey, whereas maybe they'd be anxious or skeptical about the change. Bringing them in is kind of giving them some buy-in. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. I mean, I used to work in M&A in a former life, and it is terrifying. It is absolutely change is horrifying. Truly, it's something to be afraid of because generally speaking, when things change, they don't change in business. I'm saying in general, those changes so rarely end up great for everyone, right? Someone's going to get going to have a problem. And so I understand intimately what happens when the rug gets pulled out from under you. So I'm extremely sensitive to that. And I'm hopeful that, through time and through all of this focus and attention we're putting on it, we're able to actually, live the dream here, serve the mission. And that's it. That's the idea.
A question I was going to ask, but I think I know a question a lot of our listeners would ask because we've got people getting promoted. We've got people that are all of a sudden leading a branch or a team where there was a former leader and they're leading change. And they've got teammates that some of them are excited because they get to be part of it. They got some teammates that are really worried because, wait, we've always done it this way. Why are we doing it differently?
Yeah.
The question a lot of those leaders have, I know that they have is, Nate, what surprised you the most about leading this rebrand as a CEO, as a leader? And it sounds like the answer, if I'm hearing you correctly, you keep saying repetition is hard. Repetition is hard. But at the same time, communication must be redundant. What we talk about all the time as leaders is, I say, when you start to get sick of it is when others start to stick with it. So my question for you with this rebrand, maybe it's the paint, maybe it's intentional decisions you're making, like leading the all hands meeting. Yeah. What are some things, or maybe just for you as a leader? Actually, that might be a better question. How do you keep on keeping on? How do you keep that repetition when it gets really tough?
Well, I'm incredibly curious, and I'm also extremely interested in everyone's success. So when I see, and also I'm
Mm.
a hypercritical human just by nature. So
What a combo.
I see gaps everywhere. It's just kind of like a thing I see. If I see somebody even remotely struggling in a small way, that's a data point to think about for improvement. One place that I know I have I have already failed my team when I took over is in helping some of the folks who are in certain positions feel supported, educated on top of it. You know, I don't want to pillory myself too much, but
Yeah.
truly there is you're talking about the branch leader, right? I forget
Yeah,
what the
yeah, yeah.
example was. That person might have an idea of what they're doing. 85, 90%, that's generous probably.
Hmm.
But there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of insecurity there. There's
Yeah.
probably a lot of, you know, just fear
Almost like
of
this
taking it
fake it till
over.
you make it. Is someone going to be like, hey, why are you saying this? Yeah, like what gives
Well,
you the
and
right?
yeah, and so the impulse is to get a little defensive, to get a little overly powerful, to get a little assertive,
Hmm.
and dial that up instead of dialing up the curiosity and dialing up the humility, which are the ways in which to get and
Mm.
build trust. Because without that trust, as you guys both very well know, you got nobody rowing in the same direction. That is that is the place where I see gaps all the time, and it's something that I'm mindful of. And it's if you can't, I'll say this because this is something I've been believing in for a very long time. It's surfacing passive aggression in communication, in meetings that will get uncomfortable once you do the thing. It's
Yeah.
time to surface the passive aggression. Hey, use a fake name, Stacy.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that you're a little upset in your voice. Now, you haven't actually said you're upset. Can you tell me, are you upset or not? Right?
Yeah.
When you're a new leader, can you imagine just like doing that to one of your people that work for you? No, there's no way
Mm.
you would feel comfortable doing that. So you've got to build that trust over time to get to the point where you can do that, have that friction, and then come out of it on the other end saying, wow, we're better together now. That's
Mm.
that's a place where I I long to be. We're not there yet. I hope to someday be there 100%.
I think Patrick Leonoshi describes that as the danger zone and being able to step up into the danger zone.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I mean, what you described was in one of his books, actually, the Six Working Geniuses.
Yes.
You're the wonder guy. You're like wondering, hey, how does this work? And then um,
Actually, I am not a wonder
you're
guy. Did
not a
you know
wonder
this about?
guy.
No, I
Okay,
do wonder a lot, and it is one of
Yeah.
my, I forget what he calls the middle thing. I am a discernment and tenacity guy for all of you six genius for
discernment
All
and
right.
tenacity.
yeah,
That's
for
great
all
that
of
you
you
read the
work
book and you
for
know
all of you
your
working
two.
genius people out
There
there.
we
Yeah.
We
go.
actually did that for our team as a team building thing, so that's why I'm familiar with it. So.
So what you're describing though is that moments of truth, right? So some of our moments of truth are in our control, but some are not. And so
Hmm.
it sounds like
Hmm.
you have either with your discernment or tenacity the ability to find those thousands of moments of truth every day that most people look at and be like, well, that's just how our website looks, and you're like, no. This is where great service begins. We need to focus on these little gaps that you're identifying along the way. So that's
Yeah.
that's a great observation of your own
And
strength as a
and to
leader.
go further with that idea of moments of truth, the example was Stacy. Hey, I'm hearing a
Yeah.
little hesitancy or aggression in your
Yeah.
voice. What are you upset about? Or are you upset?
Can you
Like
tell us
that's a
more
moment
about
of
that? Is
truth.
another one. Yeah. Hey, can
Yeah.
you tell us more about how you're feeling? Us, not me, us, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A team atmosphere.
Hmm.
And what I'm hearing about this dialing down the tone of, I don't know if you'd say dial down the passive aggression. You're bringing it to the surface, to the light, but you're dialing up the curiosity, I think is what you said. And with that,
Yeah.
what does that create? A psychologically safe space. So when you ask a question like that, people know, all right, I know what Nate's desire is. I know what Nate
Mhm.
wants for the team in regards to mission. I know that Nate wants to make sure there's no gaps between teammates and how we feel about this as well. So a lot of this is how do I create a psychologically safe
Yeah.
environment where people trust me as a leader and trust our organization?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
life's work. That's life's work.
Yeah.
That is it. That is it right there, Scott. It truly is that. And if you can create an environment where people can be just furious with one another, just angry,
Yeah.
and create a whole bunch of friction, and then you come out of there and you go, man, we got through that. We can get through anything. And it is
Yeah.
truly, that is like, that's panacea. That's what we want. We want to get to the place where we're having good fights, where we're having good conflict, because any relationship worth its salt has that. Everyone knows
Yeah.
that. Everyone who has a good friend, a partner, whatever, you're going to have some fights. There's going to
Yeah.
be aggression. What we want to get rid of is that passive aggression where you're sitting on stuff and then all of a sudden, whoa, the
Yeah.
bomb goes off and they quit, or they whatever, they make a mess of things. You don't want that. You definitely don't want that. So that's what we're hopeful for with the trust building stuff.
It's an easy job. What I just heard you say, easy job. This is
Super
gonna be
easy.
great.
Life's work,
Good.
like I said.
Yeah.
Got new paint. I'm excited. So when is the official launch of the new brand? The podcast
Yeah,
might
so
be
right-
coming around that
Yeah,
time.
right around the podcast here. We're aiming for that soft launch January, February 26th area. So that's the goal, and we're really, really excited for 2026 and beyond. But
The
thankful.
question
Yeah,
the
go
question I
ahead.
have about 2026. So when the
Yeah.
rebrand happens this time next year, how will you know that this rebrand to mission actually worked? What units of measurements or metrics do you have? Or is it just more, well, I would say observation is a measurement tool. That's what we teach.
Yeah.
How will you say this rebrand was worth it going to Rekindle?
Well, the easy one is more credit unions are going to know about Rekindle and therefore join Rekindle. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a sort of a business 101 concept there for you. I'm sure everybody's like, well, no kidding.
Yeah.
So that's the easy one, right? More credit
Well,
unions.
first, you say it's easy. Yet sometimes we try to, well, even what you said, reinvent the wheel, make it so complex. We've got to keep it to the foundation. I want our listeners to hear that. All right.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this rebrand? It's keeping the mission forward. If the mission's forward, what are you going to see as a result? Well, Nate is saying we should be partnering up with more credit unions because they understand our mission. So that's the first one, foundational. Yeah, easy or low hanging fruit. But if we're not based there, how can we grow to these other things? So it sounded like you had a few other ideas in your head as well.
Well, the other one's a little bit more nebulous, but something I really think would be great, which is, if we're at a conference, or frankly, if we're not at a conference, somebody could define for you who we are in that 30-second elevator pitch. Hey, have you heard of Rekindle? They do this.
Yeah.
This is who they are. You should hook up with them. That's a place that's indirect. That's not direct. That's not something that we have 100% control over, obviously. But if we're presenting ourselves in the way that I believe that we are capable of, then that should be something that just happens organically. That organic understanding of who we are is something in the space, right? In the industry, is something that I would hope really does surface by the end of 26. That would be great.
So in the spirit of that, let's just do lightning round real quick. So for our listeners, in case someone's still struggling, tell me three vendors that you've partnered a group of credit unions with. So one, Service Star, smaller credit unions that couldn't afford leadership training, sales, and service. You've teamed them up with. Who are two other vendors that you've helped credit unions partner with?
Okay, so one huge one. So Verifin, MasterCard, big cards conversion in 2025. That was the biggest one we've done. Much smaller, just checks. Harlan Clark, very simple. People need checks still. So there you go. That's three. Did we do it?
Yeah, you did it.
Great.
Quickly, man.
And
that was
it's not that maybe a small credit union couldn't afford it. But is that the best use of the of the members' money? And so we got to always remember that these are the members' dollars that we're reinvesting back and giving back as a dividend. And
I know we're lightning now. I'm going to pick on that just slightly. Not just money, time. They don't have to deal with this stuff that they don't want to deal with. They don't want to talk to Harlan Clark about their checks. We'll do that for you. So there you go.
I love it.
Which would save or put the members' money to even better use as well, because then those leaders can focus on
the members.
how to make a better experience from them.
Bingo.
Great.
Bingo.
Yeah. Albrecht, what else you have, man?
Oh, dude, how about the operating system of mission for the rebrand? I mean, I think we need to
Oh
do an
yeah.
acronym for this. If I were to rebrand your rebrand, the entire word, let's do this, okay? So, rebrand, R, redirect, or as you called snap, but it doesn't work with the acronym. So, R,
No, no S in that. Keep going.
redirect,
Okay, we got it.
rebrand, E, everything,
Get ready.
B, back,
Everything back.
R, to rekindle,
I'm feeling it.
AND, and never different.
And never different.
Listen,
Redirect
you know what I'm
everything
gonna do?
back to rekindle.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that
Never
down.
different.
We'll see if we can't codify that with the board. I like it. That's good.
That's the new rekindle. Yeah, a slogan there. Well, Nate, thank you so much for your time. We'll get some email information from you or website. So if people want to find out more about
Cool.
you, where to go. But very quick, like, where's the one source of truth? If people listen to this and said, man, I want to find you right now, where should they go to partner up with you or learn more about what y'all do?
Oh, this is great. So go to rekindleqso.org. That is
All right.
going to be the place. Go there.
Awesome.
You will find us.
By the time they see it, this podcast has come out. It's going to be the new color. So let
It
Nate
will.
know. Find him
Well,
on the socials. Hashtag awesome color choice of your palette. So
just up on LinkedIn. That's
should be
right.
sweet.
Awesome. Well, Nate, thank you so much. This is the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. We'll see you on a bit.
Hey, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Now that was a great episode here at the Credit Union Leadership Podcast. We got some new paint colors, and you know what? There's a lot of letters in the alphabet, Scott Anderley. But the only
Sure is.
letter you need to think about when you're doing a rebrand is the letter Y. Now, Anderley, what were your key takeaways from what you just heard with our guest, Nate Anderson from Rekindle?
The big thing, if I was to boil it down, was Nate was talking about leaders need to leaders need to use rebrand as a mission accelerant, not a logo change. And he was talking about this. I want it to be an elevator pitch. I want it to be something that other people could evangelize about Rekindle, even if we're not there at a conference, things like that. So using rebrand as a mission accelerant, not a logo change. What about you, Albrecht? What was something that stood out to you?
We got some $5 words out of Nate today. We got an acronym out of me. And you know what? On the next episode, we're super excited to keep on keeping on with the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, helping you turn your mission into measurable expectations with your team, understanding yourself. And I think Nate did a great job of being transparent on today's podcast about his own downfalls and his own kind of why behind the way he's wired. And why communicating that to the team was super important as a new CEO of Rekindle. And so if you got a leadership question, I'd love to hear it.
We'd love to hear from you. We hear you and we want to help you. Albrecht, we're the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, and we'll be here to help inspire current and aspiring leaders with real world examples. See you guys. Interested in submitting a question to the Credit Union Leadership Podcast, we want to hear from you. Go in our show notes. We have a link over there, and in that link, it's going to take you to two options. You can submit a question written out through email, or you can submit an audio recording through SpeakPipe. We make it super easy. Go to the link in the show notes, click audio recording. Once you click audio recording, it's going to take you straight to a website where you just press the record button. You've got 90 seconds to submit a question or submit you catching doing somebody do it right. And then you just type in your name and email address, and that's it. It comes straight to us, and we'll take it from there. So you don't need to download anything. You don't need to get any new software. You just go to this website, press record, and click submit, and we're good to go. So go to the link in the show notes. Click if you want to submit a question written out or through audio, and we'll take it from there. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Hey, we are on YouTube. We've got video podcasts. So click the link in the show notes. Watch our YouTube video. We're working on how to get videos on Spotify and iTunes, Apple Music, things like that. But what we've learned is that people are 80% more likely to remember something if there's a visual associated with it. So watch our video podcast, comment, let us know how we can be better. Let us be part of your journey. Thank you so much.
ServiceStar offers research-based credit union-specific training solutions that have worked for top-performing credit unions for the last 25 years. Using breakout groups, role playing, and case studies, our Coaching for Performance workshop series quickly transforms managers' skills from managing into skills that help coach and build more dynamic team members and leaders. You see, coaching is all about improving somebody to their highest level of performance, to their highest potential. Coaching is all about growth and development. And each session will provide managers the knowledge and the confidence to know what to do to be effective performance coaches. We look forward to seeing you at ServiceStar Consulting's upcoming Coaching for Performance workshops. You can check those out at servicestarconsulting.com/events.